Howdy folks, welcome to my new digs. Okay, it's not very fancy yet, but we're getting there. You know, things will go up here and there. For now, you see the flag over my shoulder, Sic Semper Tyrannis, thus always to tyrants. And notice what you see there. There's the person standing on the tyrant. Well, there's no blood. Okay, so I guess they didn't want to put any blood there. So anyway, you see the crown, and there's somebody standing up for their rights. And, you know, when people want to kill you, you kill them first. And I'm not saying go out and kill Democrats, okay? Now, of course, Democrats are going to splice this. We know they will. What I'm saying is that back in the 1700s, we knew that King George was oppressing us. He was taking hostages, patriots or Americans, hostages, and using them on the ships out at sea. He was taxing us. We didn't have local representation. There were plenty of problems, and he was oppressing us in the United States. It wasn't the United States then, I know. But what we did was we stood up against him and we fought. We won the war, and here we are, the United States of America. And many states put up something like this. There were many different kinds of flags. Don't tread on me, and you know, patriots standing up there. It was an honorable thing. It was a big thing. We won a war against a massive tyrant. You know, they had armies, they had weapons, they had horses, cannons, and everything, and we had determination and God. I believe God was on our side. And we're kind of in a similar situation today. I mean, the biggest problem now, you know, outside of this latest election, which obviously was major flawed, and if you haven't seen it yet, the best coverage on this is the Gateway Pundit. That's the Gateway Pundit, pundit.com. Those folks definitely sign up, give your money, you know, $5 a month, whatever it is, to sponsor and to get ad-free and read behind-the-scenes articles. It's just a good way to go. We need to support people who believe what we believe and who are putting out the message out for us to help us see what we need to see about what's going on. I mean, obviously, if you turn on the news, CNN, MSNBC, and so on, it's all a bunch of garbage. It's indoctrination. It's, yeah, well, you can't let your kids watch this stuff. And the TV shows, they're using their platforms now, whatever kids shows, to brainwash our children. So we got to turn that off too. Where do we go? There's a lot of things that need to happen. In this episode, I'm going to talk about defining who we are. I believe that one of the biggest problems that we have in the United States as patriots is that we aren't properly defining ourselves. As we saw with the January 6th protest that the Democrats took advantage of, and they spun it into this riot, and then we're after the Democrat politicians started calling us insurrectionists, terrorists, white supremacists, Nazis. You know, it's unbelievable what they will do. Democrats will do anything. Democrats have no shame. They have no conscience. They will do whatever the heck they want to do. And they use that event. And they may not have all colluded together, but certainly what happened was each person, each Democrat in each area, like Antifa or Black Lives Matter or the politicians in Congress or the media or the social media, they all work together, even though they didn't communicate with each other. It's just known. They just know what to do, and they do it automatically. They've been doing it for so many years, it's just automatic, and they know it. So the news stations will put out whatever they need to get people believing that they're the good guy and we're the bad guy, and you know, that's just the way it is, and they're good at it. We can't really beat that. We don't have that communication. We don't have the ability to communicate on that level around the world, across the country. They've got us beat there. But we do have good social media, and we do have good videos. We have good people out there. Prayer for Rush Limbaugh and his family. Obviously, he was one of the best we ever had. But we still have lots of other people out there that are good people that have millions of numbers. Mark Dice, Steven Crowder, Real Network News. There's just so many places that we can turn to, and that's what we need to do. We need to turn to our media, and we need to turn off their media, and we need to start our own TV channels. We need to start our own movies and our own series. And I know there's PureFlix, and it's good, but it's one channel. We need to do more, and we need to do better. And again, we have to define ourselves. So I believe, I'll speak for myself, I'm first and foremost a Christian patriot. I believe in God. I know God exists. I know God is telling us that there's a lot of things going wrong in this country, and there's a lot of good, but there's a lot of bad, and we either have to do something to defend ourselves, or it's just going to happen. The takeover, the complete takeover is going to happen. The Chinese social media control system is what the Democrats are trying to implement on us. They want to use our social media to define whether or not we should get jobs, bank accounts, our kids go to school, and so on. This is massive. Nothing small is happening here. And what they're doing is they're redefining our core documents. You know, we have the Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, the Bill of Rights. You know, we have our core documents. They defined us. They've been there for hundreds of years. And Democrats are saying, I don't like them. Years ago, Nancy Pelosi said it was just a dusty old document. And the Democrats have always been saying that, yeah, they're a good start. But we got to change them so that it fits everyone. And in other words, not us, but them. I mean, this is what they're talking about. They're not trying to make America a more inclusive place for anyone who doesn't believe what they believe in. They're trying to separate. They're trying to segregate us because they believe we're the great white evil, literally white evil. That's why you always hear them talk about white supremacy, and they push this anti-white agenda everywhere you go. I mean, they are racist. Democrats are racist beyond imagination. We're not. We embrace anyone. We never say anything about anyone. We never call anyone racist terms or anything. But of course, the Democrats do that every day. The Democrats do racist things every day. And for some reason, the black population just falls and votes for them because they've been so manipulated by the Democrats that they don't have the ability to think anymore. It's just an automatic press the D button. They're our party. They're going to do things for us when the Democrats don't do things for them. The Republicans do. And specifically, President Trump did so much for the black population, helping them get jobs, helping them get off their feet, get on their feet, and get self-supportive, you know, being able to get out of the bad environments that they're in and get into the good life. You know, everybody wants to get a piece of the pie. And that's what Donald Trump was trying to do. He was trying to get everybody to have a piece of the pie. Democrats don't want that. And they don't want the blacks to have a piece of the pie. I mean, come on, look at the inner cities. Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles, Oakland, on and on and on, Atlanta. All these places are cesspools. They are actual, well, yeah, I'll say my occasional cuss words, and especially one that is appropriate. And, they're shitholes. That's what they are. And, okay, it may sound rough, but let me tell you, I was on a train once in Spain, and it was a milk run. A milk run is a train that just putters along, slow as ever. And if you get on a train that you pay a supplement, that train will go 2 hours from one city to another, whereas you get on the milk run and it could take 6 to 10 hours. They might drop you off in the middle of the desert for 2 or 3 hours and then pick you up. There's no air conditioning. There's no cleaning. There's no people walking around selling food and drinks. There's no nothing. I mean, it's a cesspool. And literally, it's a shithole. I'm not kidding. You go into the bathroom, and I remember the train that I was on was so packed that the people were elbow to elbow sitting on the floor. I slept on the luggage rack up at the top. And when I needed to go to the bathroom, I had to crawl the luggage rack all the way around and put my arms and legs, the windows and everything. I was going above the people because I couldn't step on them. But I finally got to the bathroom, and I'm still in the air, and I push open the door, and I look down in there, and there is a pile of crap and piss that deep, okay? And as the train was moving, it was sloshing back and forth, and it was actually coming out. So, because the lip on it is only that high. So I don't really remember how, well, maybe it wasn't that deep and maybe it was my mind, but I do remember some of it was coming out. I mean, it's just, when you see that kind of thing, it just like, whoa, it sets you back. And that's what's happened in our inner cities. They are so riddled with crime. I feel sorry for the people who are there. I'm not going to point at them and say, these people in there are evil people. I'm going to point at the Democrats, and I'm going to say to the Democrats, you created people who are unable to take care of themselves. They're unable to keep clean houses. They're unable to keep clean neighborhoods. Bullets are flying through cars, killing children. Bullets are flying through doors and windows, killing children. The inner cities in our country are just worse than war zones. I mean, it's hard to believe this is happening in the United States. But they've defined themselves so much, the Democrats have defined themselves so much, that even though they've created these hellholes all over the United States, they still get support. I mean, it's hard to believe. How could that possibly be? But they've got this media that just tells them that they are good people. Look at the Republicans, insurrectionists, white supremacists, terrorists, Nazis, on and on and on. And it's just unbelievable how they are so capable of defining themselves and defining us. And we need to define ourselves better every day. Again, I'm a patriot Christian, and I'm probably hitting my microphone over and over. I believe in the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, as they stand. I don't believe there's a lot of monkeying around that needs to go into those documents so that they somehow reflect the modern day. I think that's something that has been around for a long time. It was good then, and most of it's probably still good today. So it's important for us to use what we can. And as we saw with Parler, Parler was booted off the air. Trump was going to join them, and the Democrats said, no, you're not. We're going to kick them out. We're going to disconnect them from the servers, and we're going to stop them from operating. So finally, they had to set up shop, I believe, in Russia, out of all places. And can you imagine, this is what's happening to us? We have to set up shop in foreign countries because Democrats have disconnected us like that much here in our United States of America. We're afraid of how we're doing certain things because we know darn well the Democrats can look at where we are and they can disconnect us. They'll look at all of the things that are necessary to mess us up. They'll go to our employers and they'll tell our employers that we're Nazis and terrorists and they need to get rid of us, and so on and so on and so on, because they're defining us. But we need to do that. We need to speak out. We need to communicate with people that believe what we believe. We need to go to church. If you don't go to church, there's other ways you can get God's word, obviously, online, streaming and so on. But you want to try to interact with Christians, and then you want to share God's word. God is behind us. I know that the Democrats make that claim, but you got to remember, the Democrats were the ones that hated God for the longest time. One of their most famous art pieces was Piss Christ. Literally a cross with Christ on the crucifix in a vat of urine, okay, and they called it Piss Christ. Now, would we ever do anything like that? Heck no. You know, that's so unbelievably rude, and it's insane. It just shows you the insanity of them. So we don't do that kind of thing. So we need to really show what we do represent, and we need to work together. We've got to figure things out right now. We're patriots, and we need to figure out what to do. In my opinion, the Republican Party is done. I mean, you see these federal Republicans, mostly federal Republicans, but not just federal. Look what happened in Georgia. Raffensperger and the others. Georgia knifed Trump in the back, and they said, "I don't care if you won. We're not going to let you. We're going to do something that makes sure that you don't win." And so the establishment, anti-Trump, never-Trump Republicans, they stabbed us in the back by stabbing him in the back. So the Republican Party, and again, mostly the federal Republicans, there are state Republicans that are good, and we can support them. But I believe with this next election coming up in another year, 2 years from the election, whatever it is, next year, we have to vote for patriots. And if we can get rid of the Republican Party, in my opinion, and if we can set up a platform that's a patriot platform, and we define what needs to happen with the patriots in this country. You may think that it's not that extreme, and some folks out there, you might be saying, what the heck are you talking about? I like the Republican Party. It's just going to divide us. We're going to lose forever. This is not a good thing to do. But look what the Republican Party has done since 1973. Now, what's significant about 1973? That was Roe v. Wade. And when Roe v. Wade came down, it came down as a Supreme Court decision, not as a law. They didn't pass it through Congress, and it wasn't one of Biden's executive actions or any other Democrats. We're talking about the Supreme Court of the United States. They backdoored us with a law that said it is okay to kill babies. And since 1973, we've been killing babies. An unbelievable number of them. Probably, I think it's between 65 and 70 million. It sounds extreme, but we kill 43 million to 50 million every year around the world. So, hey, 65 to 70 million in the United States, that's peanuts compared to what we're doing around the world. Regardless, it's about 1 million babies are slaughtered in the womb every year. The Democrats have convinced women that, hey, it's a good option. Don't have enough money? Kill your baby. Don't have enough food? Kill your baby. Don't have a place to live? Kill your baby. Don't have a job? Kill your baby. Kill your baby. That's what they promote, and that's what they push every day. Now, that didn't pass. It wasn't a bill. It wasn't a law. The United States Supreme Court backdoored us, like they said. And they said, hey, this is kind of like right to privacy. Yeah, that's it. It's a right to privacy because the baby's in the womb and it's a private thing. Oh, and the people are having sex in their bedrooms and that's a private place. So it's a right to privacy. Let's keep our right to privacy. Yeah, okay. And Americans were too stupid, and really, they were too stupid to recognize that they had been duped. And they just kind of looked up like, what do you know? Abortion's a right to privacy, and they just took it. Now, a lot of people rose up, and a lot of people protested and went out in front of the abortion mills, and they still do to this day, protesting. But the laws haven't passed, and most importantly, the Republicans have done nothing to end abortion. Okay, we've had presidents. We had President Nixon. He had a Republican Congress. He had, I believe, a Republican Supreme Court. We had President Bush. Republican Congress, close enough on the Supreme Court. We had President Trump, definitely Republican Congress and a Republican Supreme Court. We had full control. We had full control a few times. They did nothing to end abortion. People say, well, they couldn't have done that because they can't write laws that change things like that. Right. So how did slavery end? Because they never got rid of the Dred Scott decision. The Dred Scott decision put minimal rights on blacks in the United States of America, made sure they couldn't vote, made sure they were 3/5 human instead of complete human beings. But we never got rid of that. It's still there. It's still in the United States Supreme Court. It is still an official document saying that blacks aren't complete humans. Well, what did Congress do? In 1964, they passed the Civil Rights Act. And they said, to heck with that stupid Dred Scott decision. We believe that's wrong. We believe that blacks and other people in the United States have rights, and we're going to create a bill that gives them rights. And that's what they did. The same darn thing can happen with abortion. The people can say, you can't kill babies. That's not a good thing. So we're going to pass a law to get rid of abortion. The Republicans will tell you, oh, we have a bill. We've written a bill. Duncan Hunter, Congressman Duncan Hunter, he pushed forward a bill, and we've been voting on that every year. And those wascally Democrats keep shutting it down. That's a lie. It's a farce. They're not trying. If they were trying while they had complete control over everything, they would have passed a law and they would have gotten rid of abortion. I believe we need to do this. The intentional killing of babies has to be one of the major things that we deal with in this country. But we also have to protect ourselves, because look what's coming. Look what's happening. Again, they're defining us. The January 6th event, they used that to define us. Coronavirus, they used that to define us. Immorally, improperly, they lied about everything, but they don't care. They'll lie and they'll keep lying. That's how they do things. They lie and lie and lie, and they convince people what they're lying about is the truth. And the amazing thing is, they are so skilled at this. What they do is they say the same things we say, but because they say it, it's true. And then they point at us, and then they say that because we're saying it, it's false. So if we call them a Nazi, they say, oh my gosh, you're calling us a Nazi? How dare you? The Jews were slaughtered and you're calling us a Nazi? That's immoral. And they get people to shut down the people who did that. And then what do they do in their next breath? You're a Nazi. They do it all the time. Whether it's supremacist, terrorist, that's what they're doing now. Ever since January 6th, they've been using terrorist and insurrectionist. And of course, we know that's what they are. They're the insurrectionists. They staged a coup. They're the terrorists. Yet they point at us and they say, you're the ones who are the insurrectionist terrorists. And look at, for instance, with the Defense Secretary, and I've got some of my notes here, Lloyd J. Austin III. He did a stand down in order to identify who the white insurrectionist terrorists were in our United States military, so that he could decide what he's going to do. Now, wait a minute. And in the latest I heard, they found 20,000 in our ranks. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that anybody who posted anything against Biden is now a terrorist? Anybody who posted something in support of Trump is a terrorist? And are our soldiers going to get drummed out of the military because the Democrats say they're terrorists? Do you realize what's happening? It's happening in our ranks. It's not, they want to control the ranks of the military. They don't want anyone who's a Republican in the United States military. They want drones. They want hardcore Democrat partisans and drones. They want people who will take an oath and say, I will obey and fight against enemies, foreign and domestic. And when the defense secretary says, that guy over there, he's an enemy. He's an enemy of the state. And then they want our soldiers to go put a rifle in his face, okay? And then they want to arrest that man and throw him out of the military. They want to reset the military. It's the same thing they're trying to do in Congress, and the Republican politicians know it. They see the writing on the wall. They know that conservative Republican values are on their way out the window. So what they're doing is they're starting to do more and more liberal things, and they're supporting the Democrats on a lot of stuff. And they think they can make friends with these people. It's like making friends with a viper. Okay, the viper's not going to say, cool, nice to know you, let's work together. No, it's going to bite you. And that's what that viper's going to do to these Republicans. It's going to bite them. So, You know, that's why it's so important. That's why we need to define who we are. We have to do that every day. We have to speak up about the issues. You know, Democrats typically are the ones who will say, "Oh, I don't want to talk about politics or abortion," you know, and it's like, yeah, I know you don't, because you don't like the fact that we point out that you're a baby killer. You support baby killing, which makes you a baby killer. And that's what we have to say. And we have to, okay, I'm not saying that you just get right in the face of everybody with you're a baby killer. What I'm saying is that you go through the motions. You get them to admit it themselves, and they will. I've done it many times. I've debated this thousands of times. I was in the pro-life movement for over 15 years, going all over America, interviewing. I've got over 500 videos on this channel, and I definitely have plenty of experience talking about this topic. And there are so many people who are just so, you know, blocked off. They are 100% pro-abortion. Who cares? They'll kill babies up to 10 years old. And that's no joke. They've actually said it, and they're actually working on doing this in Europe because they don't believe in humanity. They don't believe that we have a soul. They don't believe that we're part of God. They don't believe in God, even though they pretend, kind of. I mean, come on. Joe Biden, a Catholic, Nancy Pelosi, a Catholic. Are you kidding me? That the Catholic Church would even give them communion is beyond me. That they would even allow them to set foot across the threshold of the church. I mean, I'm surprised the churches don't burn when they step across the threshold. It's just absurd. So I went kind of long. I was going to try to go, 15, 20 minutes. I'm pushing up to a half an hour now. And, believe me, I can rant forever. And anybody who knows me knows that's true. I'm ready to start up the channel for real. I discussed that in the last few videos that we're ramping up. We're setting up this area here. This cabinet's going to have some of my stuff. I might change this, put up a screen. I'm going to go live with the stuff in the background and so on. But there's a lot of things coming. And just for a short little sidestep, and this is like a big sidestep. Joe Biden took us back into the Paris Accords. And for anybody who doesn't know what that means, we're now going to be giving billions of dollars to liberal politicians and people all over the world. Liberal businesses, dollars are just going to go flowing out of our pocketbooks into these people's banks all over the world. The climate stuff is just garbage. We are not warming up. We haven't been warming up for a long time. Back in the 80s, yeah, the earth was warming. It's called weather, okay? Climate change, the reason they changed it to climate change was because at a certain point, 85 to 89, the global warming stopped. It stopped. Temperatures weren't going up like they were going up. The oceans weren't rising. They promised that the oceans would rise 100 feet by 2020. Didn't happen. They went up, 4 millimeters, 6 millimeters, not 100 feet. They're lying. They make stuff up so they can pocket our money. And the weather thing is a huge issue. I'm going to do more about this in the future. I just wanted to touch on this because I wanted to point you to a site and to start getting prepared because the weather is turning cold. We're going into an ice age. Whether it's going to be a mini ice age or a full ice age, I don't know. But we're going into an ice age. And electroverse.net is one of the websites that has great articles on what's coming up. The headline on one of the articles, Northern Hemisphere snow mass jumps to 700 gigatons above 1982 to 2012 average, plus Arctic sea ice sees exponential gains, plus Iceland volcanoes stir. So there are a lot of earthquakes, there are a lot of volcanoes, the snow mass is growing by the gigatons, hundreds of gigatons. We know, we see what's happening. We saw what happened in Texas last week. How many people? 5 million, 6 million without power. Pipes burst all over the state. Why? Because they never expected for it to be that cold. For anyone who says that, oh, you know, it was that cold a little while ago. It's like, no, it wasn't. It's never been that cold in that state. They would have insulated their pipes. They would have done things differently if they would have expected that kind of deep freeze. They went below zero. People died. Thanks to Joe Biden, people died. And he won't even go visit them. As far as he's concerned, they're a bunch of redneck Republicans. So, you know, he's not going to go visit them. And this article continues. The cold times are returning in line with the Great Conjunction, low solar activity, cloud nucleating cosmic rays, a meridional jet stream flow, and erupting volcanoes. Prepare, okay? We need to prepare. So you need to prepare with food. You want to have plenty of food on stock. You want to have plenty of water. That's what happened in Texas. They didn't have enough food and water, and what are they doing? They're lining up in these lines for hours and hours. I mean, you can think about it. Texas is bigger than California, Maine, and one other one, big one combined. Oh, New York. So Texas is bigger than California, New York, and Maine combined. Okay, and they weren't prepared. People died. They had hunger, no water, their houses were frozen, everybody was frozen because they weren't prepared. So we have to prepare. And we have to prepare not just because of this cold, but the Democrats are trying to prepare us for warmth. We're heading into the cold. They're doing the opposite. They're setting up solar farms and they're getting covered with snow and the power's getting shut down. They're putting up wind turbines and they're getting frozen with ice and they're getting shut down. And that's why millions of people were without power in Texas, was because 10 to 20% of their power came from this green energy, which sucked when it came down to it, when it was too cold. So, yeah, I mean, you know, green, someday down the line, we can work toward that. But we can't just step into it overnight. Joe Biden overnight disconnected us from our oil fields. Overnight, the price of gas and oil shot through the roof. I mean, it went up 30, 40, 50 cents thanks to Joe Biden. And overnight, millions of people are losing their jobs thanks to Joe Biden bumping up the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and people, the corporations can't handle that kind of, you know, increased raise overnight. There is so much to talk about with the Democrats, and I just wanted to touch on the weather for now. Yes, we're coming out of the winter. We'll probably still have one more cold snap, but this winter was rough. And if you look at the amount of snow that we had, let's see. Well, first of all, in February to the 20th, the United States broke 9,075 low temperature records versus 982 warm records. So there were 10 times more cold records. See, and the Democrats, all they do is they play on the TV, look at all these warm records. Oh, we're warmer than ever. No, we're not. We're colder than ever. So we need to be aware of that. And so there's so much stuff about the snow cover. Here's an article that came out on the 17th about the North America snow extent. And the snow cover extent is almost off the charts as Earth's temperature sinks below 1979 to the 2000 average. I was a child I was a teenager in the 70s. And so I remember what it was like then, and it was cold. It was, you know, I thought that's the way the weather was always going to be. So when we went into the 80s and it got warm, I was a little surprised. But then we started heading back, and now we're back in the same weather that we were in the 70s. So that's why the North American snow cover extent is off the charts almost, as our Earth's temperature sinks below that 79 to 2000 average. And it's going to keep going in that direction. There's a lot of things we need to do. There's a lot of things we need to be aware of. I'm on all the social media sites. I do basic posts on Twitter and well, LinkedIn, they kicked me off. I did manage to finally get back in again. But almost all of the conservative platforms, Rumble and Gab and USA.life and so on, I post on those every day. And pretty much if you go to any conservative platform and look up Peter Shin, S-H-I-N-N, together, one word or two, Peter Shin, and you're going to find my articles or my posts. And typically what I'll do is I'll post something pointing to an article, and that will typically be the Gateway Pundit because they have the best articles. And that's it for the little stuff, the little quick stuff. The videos are going to come out more and more, and things that we can do, things that we need to be aware of, where we need to speak out, what we can do, what we need to prepare, how we need to prepare, and think what we need to think about doing. Because if we're in a liberal state and the Democrats complete their takeover, what's going to happen to us? You know, you see them pushing the gun laws right now, and the first thing they want us to do is register, and then they're going to ban the AR-15s and so on. And if you don't think they're going to do it, come on, look at Bill Clinton. He did it. Bill Clinton did it. He banned what they called assault rifles, okay, which were all the rifles that everybody uses. Why? Because they're semi-automatic and they hold a lot of bullets. That's what we like. We don't go around shooting up people and murdering people like the Democrats claim we do, because you would hear that on the news every day, but you don't hear that. So imagine that there's over 350 million guns in this country with billions of rounds of ammunition, and yet you don't hear about people shooting up the neighborhood every other day. Not in our neighborhoods. You do in the Democrat neighborhoods. The Democrat neighborhoods are riddled with crime and riddled with gun violence, but not in our neighborhoods. So we need to speak up for ourselves, defend ourselves, and if it comes down to it and the state starts imposing certain laws and they're coming for us, look around. There are a lot of states, like in Missouri, they passed another law. The sheriff said that they will not obey the federal government's laws banning whatever Second Amendment rights we have. And if a federal sheriff or a federal government official comes in and tries to arrest us, the sheriff will stop him. And that's what needs to happen. We need to defend ourselves. We need to defend ourselves. We can't just let them come for us, okay? I mean, it's what happened to the Jews. They just sat there and let it happen. A lot of them escaped, but it just happened. It happened to my mother. It happened to my mother's family, who were all disappeared or killed by the Nazis. So I have a right to speak about this, and I'm going to speak about this a lot more, because I think it's important that we understand what happened to the Jews can happen to us. If we sit back, we're complacent, we don't do anything, and we just wait for them to roll over us, it's not going to happen. It's going to happen. So we need to be aware, we need to defend ourselves, we need to get together with people who are like-minded. You know, we've got to do something. We can't just let the Democrats take over and that's that. So, you know, our tagline at Pro-Life Unity, which is the main website is prolifeunity.com, and it's a group that I typically start in most platforms, is Life and Liberty. And I've been saying life and liberty for probably 20, 30 years. And I believe those two things are so important. Our lives and the babies' lives, and there's a lot more to that story another day. Life and liberty. If we don't stand for our lives and if we don't stand for our liberty, someone's going to come along and take it away. So let's do our best. Let's defend each other. And let's be aware, you know, let's tune in to the people who are like-minded. And every once in a while, I'm going to drop names. But the one thing I believe in Pro-Life Unity is that we have to help promote each other, and we have to help each other succeed in what we're trying to do in representing God, patriotism, and, you know, the defenseless. We have to defend the defenseless. So there's a lot to do. I hope you're interested in this kind of stuff and that you'll stay tuned. I'll explain what this sign is the next time. And like I say, I'll put more stuff up, and we'll talk about some of the things that about patriotism, about some of the items that I've been carried throughout time that means something to me. That it talks about patriotism, it talks about values and life and so on. So God bless you all. Stay tuned. Peter Shin is the name of this. It's been hard to get the YouTube algorithm to pick it up properly, and YouTube has been so challenging to many of us. But anyway, we'll figure it out. You know, we're going to work together. We'll figure it out, and we'll make this world a better place. God wants us to. We want to do it, and let's work together. God bless you all.